And please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, public for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. The clerk will give the roll count.
Madam President, there are 15 members present.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Madam President, I move that we take up item 1 on the calendar, House Bill 5474.
Without objection, the clerk will read.
House Bill number 5474, an act to prohibit local units of government from imposing certain restrictions on the ownership, registration, purchase, sale, transfer, transportation, or possession of pistols or other firearms.
The sponsors and opposition of this bill will present opening arguments, starting with the sponsors. Representative James Hayes, you have the floor.
I am in support of House Bill 5474, the Handguns on Universities Act. My fellow legislators, all across our state, universities are exploiting their unconstitutional authority to restrict firearms on campuses. This is not only a direct violation of our Second Amendment rights, it is placing the safety of these students and of these institutions in jeopardy. Because of this prohibition, these students have no way to defend themselves in the case of an assault, a robbery, a shooting, or other such emergencies. House Bill 5474 will fix all of that. This bill will revoke the authority of these universities to wrongfully prohibit the possession of the firearms that these students lawfully own. This will give the students the ability to have the protection they need and to exercise their Second Amendment rights. This bill will likely reduce campus crime. It will create a safer environment for the education of these students, and it will provide the freedom and security these students deserve. The youth are the future of our state, and if we do not fight for their rights, how can we expect future generations to do the same? We cannot sit idly by and allow this sickening infringement on their rights to continue. I support this bill because it will promote the immediate and future well-being of the young men and women of our state. I implore you to do what is right and vote yes to pass House Bill 5474. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. We will now hear opening arguments from the opposing caucus. Senator Wong, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I, Senator Wong, oppose House Bill 5474 because it takes away colleges' ability to shape their gun policies to best provide a safe environment for their students. First, let me make it clear. Allowing colleges to restrict firearms on college campuses does not violate the Second Amendment. In the Supreme Court case, District of Columbia versus Heller in 2008, Justice Scalia stated, quote, "Nothing, in our opinion, should be taken to cast doubt on the long-standing prohibition on the possession of firearms in sensitive places such as schools." In other words, you have a conservative Supreme Court justice ruling to protect Second Amendment rights, but also making it very clear that there are places, sensitive places such as schools, where the long-standing restrictions on guns should not be doubted. Why is this? Because guns are a very dangerous presence on college campuses. The sponsors of this bill argue that guns will make colleges safer, but this is false. First, college campuses are already safe. According to the 2017 FBI crime report, crime rates in Michigan's public colleges are decreasing. The crime rate in college campuses is over 10 times less than the rest of Michigan. College campuses are already safe, but college campus environments are not safe places to have guns. Rates of drug abuse, addiction, depression, and suicidal thoughts are high on college campuses. Combined with pressure from peers in schools, drug use and low mental health make guns on campuses very dangerous. And I haven't even mentioned just how much this bill will cost. Let us not force Michigan colleges to spend millions on upping campus security in a time right now when they are already financially insured. House Bill 5474 is unnecessary, It is dangerous and it is very, very costly. Do not pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. We will now move into the debate and amendment section of our debate. Senators, this is the point where you are allowed to ask for a rebuttal. And just remember, all you need to do is grab my attention by saying Madam President, and you will be recognized. From the opposing caucus, Senator Michkowski.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to address a fallacy in this bill. The sponsors of this bill believe that this criminal activity in our colleges. Where does most of the criminal activity happen? Dorms and classrooms. According to Section 28 in the Michigan state law, guns aren't allowed in dorms and classrooms. How would this bill protect our students in their most unsafe areas? It wouldn't. I hope that you see the fallacy of this bill and vote no on House Bill 5474. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. From the supporting caucus, Senator Denny.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen, today it is very, very important that we pass Bill HB 5474. It is restricting our very own American people of their Second Amendment right. It is wrong and a threat to our Second Amendment. This bill needs to be passed. The law prohibits the restriction of ownership, registration, purchase, sale, transfer, transportation, or possession of pistol or other firearms, ammunition for pistols or other firearms, and components of pistols and firearms. All that is restricted. This bill will give us back our freedom and safety. ConcealedCampus.org says in 2001 alone, 610 murders, 11,659 robberies were reported across college campuses in America from 2005 to 2007. More than 100 murders, 16,000 assaults, and 10,000 forcible sexual assaults were reported on college campuses, amounting to an average of more than 9 sexual assaults a day. These statistics show that students are not 100% safe on their own campuses. These students need to be able to use their Second Amendment. The Declaration of Independence guarantees life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, correct? But shouldn't that include all of America, or just the parts we want to choose? How is it that we guarantee life, but students are being murdered on campuses with no quality, useful weapons to defend themselves? How is it that we guarantee liberty, yet we have laws oppressing our Second Amendment? Why is it that we guarantee happiness, but students, teachers, sons, daughters, loved ones are being attacked in their place of learning, a place where we guarantee safety and comfort? As politicians, we are choosing to not allow students to use their Second Amendment to defend themselves. And as a consequence, people are dying and hurting. This bill will save lives. This bill guarantees the comfort of our rights. Save lives and pass Bill HB 5474. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. From the opposing caucus, Senator Gallipoli.
Madam President, can I use a 30-second rebuttal?
Yes, Senator Wong, you have 30 seconds.
First of all, I would like to thank you, Madam President. And I would like to assert what I mentioned already before. The Supreme Court has already ruled that it is not unconstitutional to prevent guns on campus. Justice Scalia, a conservative justice, already said that these are sensitive places and no doubt should be casted on them. And again, I would point out that the statistics, the supporting provided, they were not cited. And I brought up in my speech, 2017, more recent than 2001, on Michigan only, not nationwide, Michigan only, public college campuses, 0.032 violent crimes for every 100 people, 10 times less than the rest of Michigan. There is clearly no threat on college campuses. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. From the opposing caucus, we now recognize Senator Gallipoli.
Thank you, Madam President. My name is Senator Daniel Gallipoli of the Liberty Green Caucus, and I ask that you vote no to House Bill 5474. The financial burden over time will be too much for colleges. Each college in Michigan will be forced to implement more security, thus raising the cost. In 2014, 5 state schools in Idaho had to ask the state for more than $3 million extra to help pay for increased security for just that year alone. A couple colleges in Kansas estimated it would cost them $2 million just to secure their athletic facilities. This bill could put colleges in financial turmoil. We cannot trust college students with weapons, especially when drugs and alcohol are common on campus. Studies also show that college staff and even some students feel safer if there are no guns on campus. Allowing guns on campus can also make suicide more accessible. An average of 1,100 students sadly commit suicide each year.
Senator, your time has expired.
Just a reminder, when your time does expire, you are able to finish your sentence if you wish.
It's fine.
From the supporting caucus, we'll hear from Senator Denny. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. When it comes to lives, we should not be talking about money. And there are murders every day and all around college campuses, and not only murders, but people are being assaulted, and there are many crimes around college campuses. We need to enable students to have weapons to protect themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Madam President, can I provide a rebuttal?
Senator Wong, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Again, I would like to point out 27 statistics, 0.032 crimes, and there were 0 deaths that year. So what the supporting caucus is bringing up, those stats are nationwide. We do not have this problem on Michigan campuses. We have 0.032 violent crimes for every 100 people. College campuses are already safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Seeing no further debate, we'll now hear the closing arguments from both caucuses. From the opposing caucus, Senator Michkowski, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. As you have heard the arguments for and against this bill and are coming to a decision of which side to vote for, remember that lives will be affected by your decision. Our job as representatives and senators is to uphold the Constitution and the people, which includes their safety. The safest thing we can do for these colleges students is keep these guns off their campuses. As was mentioned before by my colleagues, according to Section 28 in the Michigan state law, guns aren't even allowed in their dorms and classrooms. Where does the most gun violence in schools happen? In their dorms and classrooms. Where are they going to store their guns? In their cars? This is impractical. Students and faculty don't even support having guns on their campus. They already feel safe. According to urban.org, quote, studies have found that majorities of faculty and staff oppose the policy, reasoning that allowing concealed weapons decreases people's sense of safety on campus, negatively impacts campus climate, increases the potential for gun-related injuries, and strains already tight security budgets, end quote. With college students who have enormous emotional swings and more likelihood of being drunk or high on drugs, gun in easy reach is not a good idea. In addition, the cost of guns on campus is overwhelming. For example, according to Everytown Research, when Arizona considered allowing guns on campus in 2012, the estimated costs were over $13 million, plus an additional $3.1 million every year. Arizona has 24 public colleges with approximately 155,000 students. Michigan has 46 public colleges with approximately 280,000 students. One can only imagine how much more Michigan colleges will have to pay, the millions that this dangerous bill will cost, especially in these economically uncertain times. Based on all the evidence of the harmful effects this bill will have on our colleges and college students, I strongly urge you, my fellow colleagues, that you vote no on House Bill 5474. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And from the supporting caucus, Senator Esther Hayes.
Thank you, Madam President. Today we have proposed House Bill 5474, which permits the carrying of handguns by licensed students. As American citizens, we already have the right to own firearms. For some reason, the colleges and institutions of higher education seem to have given themselves an exception. Some people believe that restrictions of firearms on campus is necessary in order to ensure the safety of students, as it is common among many of the college students to become caught up in a culture of drugs and drinking and partying, among other emotional pressures and strains. I want to argue that this is not the case for all students, but that there are many of those that desire to promote the well-being of our citizens in our country. In fact, if you have substance abuse issues, you will not be able to obtain a license for a handgun or a concealed pistol. Therefore, college students prone to drinking and doing drugs will most likely not qualify in the first place. Therefore, the law-abiding students who already own guns will be allowed to keep their guns and use them as means of protection, not only for themselves, but also for fellow students. In the unfortunate and devastating case of suicide, I can assure you that guns are not the reason people are taking their own lives. If they want to die, whether or not they have handguns on the campus of an institution of higher education, they will find a way. It's not the gun's fault. Guns aren't convincing people to kill themselves. And those that have their licenses and are following the law and practicing their Second Amendment rights will likely be faster to protect than harm. We all know about the school shootings. We've seen the destruction that man is capable of. Just to be clear, we're prohibiting people from having handguns who already own them. Are they less safe at college than anywhere else? I don't even have to tell you about the numerous school shootings, the countless sexual assaults. Why take guns away from people with a clean record just on campus? Are they in less danger there than anywhere else that they're allowed to have guns? On the contrary, allowing students to practice their Second Amendment rights will be of benefit, not a hindrance. If we instate this bill, it will not be a greater danger to the students. If we instate this bill, it will mean protection from shootings, personal protection from the numerous sexual assaults, and the freedom to practice Second Amendment rights for students in our universities. Please consider voting yes to House Bill 5474. Thank you.
Madam President, I move the previous question.
Without objection, the previous question is ordered, and we will now vote on the passage of this bill. Please indicate your vote on your screen. You should have a poll appears, and you can choose to vote yes, no, or abstain. The clerk will give the count.
Madam Speaker, there are 8 yes votes.
Madam President.
Madam President, excuse me. Madam President, there are 8 yes votes, 7 no votes, and 0 abstentions.
The bill receiving a sufficient number of votes is adopted.
Madam President, I move that we take up item number 2 on the calendar, House Joint Resolution H.
Without objection, the clerk will read.
House Joint Resolution H, a joint resolution proposing an amendment to the state constitution of 1963 to provide for the death penalty in certain circumstances. The people of the state of Michigan enact.
The sponsors of the bill may present opening arguments. Senator Gallipoli, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. Okay. Thank Thank you, Madam President. My name is Senator Daniel Gallipoli of the Liberty Green Caucus, and I am here in support of House Joint Resolution H, the death penalty. And I urge you to vote yes. Currently, in the state of Michigan, the death penalty is forbidden. That means that criminals are not paying for their crimes, and families are denied of having the killer of their family member or loved one come to have justice. If we pass this bill, we will be taking a step towards criminals paying the price for their crime, and families will receive justice for their loved one. If we pass this bill, the final vote will be by the people. This will be giving the citizens of Michigan the choice of whether to or whether to not have the death penalty in Michigan. My caucus and I propose that the death penalty be taken into effect only when it is first-degree murder and the state can prove that the murder was planned and executed. So I urge you, members of the House and Senate, to vote yes on House Joint Resolution H. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. We'll now hear the opening arguments from the opposing caucus. Senator Esther Hayes, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I come in opposition of House Joint Resolution H, which would reinstate the death penalty as punishment for first-degree murders. I think we can agree that in most cases, it is dangerous to give anyone permission to take another's life. As history has repeatedly shown us, letting the government have the ability to execute its citizens is never a safe bet to make. We can't see everything going on behind the curtains. We can't see who is capable of accepting bribes and who will live a lie to hide the truth from the public. The government has also made mistakes in whom they've executed before. And unlike confinement, death is irreversible. DNA testing has proven countless people innocent for crimes they have been convicted of, and oftentimes it costs thousands more to prove a man guilty and worthy of death than to let him live the rest of his life in confinement. To punish someone by death when they were innocent is a horror we should not risk or take lightly. It is true injustice, and it not only affects the condemned, but their families and loved ones. We have one life on this earth, and it is precious. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. We'll now hear from the supporting caucus, Senator Wong.
Thank you, Madam President. I, Senator Wong, support House Joint Resolution H because it will allow for Michigan to fairly punish horrific murders, saving lives and providing closure for the surviving victim. By allowing the death penalty for first-degree murders, Michigan is upholding the sanctity of life. Maliciously killing someone is not okay. Plotting to kill someone is not something to take lightly. Premeditated murderers must know that there are great consequences for taking someone's life. Allowing a death penalty would do just that. It will show that we, the state of Michigan, take deliberate murders very seriously. Not only does the death penalty uphold the sanctity of life, but it also saves lives. According to a study conducted over 40 years, from 1960 to 2000, for every one death penalty sentence, 18 lives were saved. 18 innocent lives saved for each murder fairly punished. 18 families who will not have to go through the pain of losing a loved one. And to address the innocence issue, there was no evidence brought up. She brought up the DNA testing. They cleared the prisoners before they were falsely executed. That is what will happen. The appeals process is public. Murderers will be justly punished, and those who are falsely accused will not be punished. Cass Sunstein wrote in 2005, quote, "Capital punishment thus presents a life trade-off, and a serious commitment to the sanctity of human life will compel rather than forbid that form of punishment. So I urge you to pass House Joint Resolution H. Allow the death penalty for first-degree murders because it will save lives and fairly punish the murder."
From the opposing caucus, Senator James Hayes.
Thank you, Madam President. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot allow this foolish piece of legislation to pass. The proposed legislation is not only cruel, it is also very risky. Since 1973, over 165 innocent Americans have been exonerated from death row. The inevitability of executing wrongfully convicted people will never be worth the satisfaction some may feel at the death of a criminal. The good this will do cannot come close to the amount of harm it will do. In addition, the fact that mentally handicapped could be executed now is sickening and wrong. To pass this would be a step backwards for the state of Michigan. We cannot maintain our dignity if we allow the legalization of such vile punishment. No one should have the authority to take the life of another human being, especially not the government. History has shown that a government will abuse their power and carry out capital punishment disproportionately on minorities. My fellow legislators, I urge you, in order to protect the lives of our fellow Michiganders, vote no on House Joint Resolution H. Thank you.
Madam President, can I use this 30-second rebuttal?
Senator Wong, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. First of all, I would like to address the 165 people exonerated. I would like to point out that those people were proven innocent before they were executed. The opposing caucus has not brought up any examples of people being wrongfully executed. Those 165 people exonerated were not executed yet. That shows that innocent people will not be executed. Furthermore, they brought up the idea of people mentally handicapped would be punished. The Supreme Court has already ruled that such things are unconstitutional, so that would not be an issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. From the supporting caucus, Senator Michkowski.
Thank you, Madam President. Those who oppose this bill will claim that it has many dangers, including wrongful execution. However, recent evidence shows the exact opposite. Because of DNA testing and deep investigations, it is extremely unlikely that an innocent prisoner will be put to death. According to the American Civil Liberties Union, quote, "The increasing use of DNA testing to help confirm the innocence or guilt in capital cases is one among many reforms that will help ensure that innocent people are not sentenced to death," end quote. DNA testing makes wrongful executions all but impossible. I urge you to vote yes on House Joint Resolution H to justly punish murderers and to save lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. From the opposing caucus, Senator Esther Hayes.
Thank you. Firstly, there is little evidence that the death penalty will actually deter people from committing murder, as most expect to get away with it without detection. Some say that prison is enough punishment for murderers. While we can agree that a murderer deserves death, we should always lean on the side of caution and mercy. Also, penal labor in the United States is allowed by the 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States. I assure you, the inmates don't sit in front of the TVs all day, but are required to carry out duties in the cafeteria, among others, and are legal slaves of the state. And remember, in the end, all will be judged by our sovereign, all-knowing God. Human life is a sacred thing we should not take lightly and should not be quick to end, no matter how drastic and vile the situation may appear. I implore you to vote no on House Joint Resolution H. Thank you.
Madam President, can I use a 30-second rebuttal?
Senator Wong, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, life is very sacred. Life must be protected. This is why we brought up a study. It's not back. A study conducted over 40 years. 18 lives are saved for every murderer properly punished. It's not just of whether we should punish the murderers, whether we want to save those lives. 18 lives saved for every murderer punished. Furthermore, as the Supreme Court Justice Scalia put, quote, "The reality is that any innocent defendant is infinitely better off appealing a death sentence than a sentence of life imprisonment, because the life sentence process will most likely clear any innocent people. So we do not have a risk of that."
Senator, your time has expired.
Thank you, Senator. From the supporting caucus, Senator Galapali, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. It is important to remember that this bill will go to a vote for the people of Michigan for them to decide whether or not they want the death penalty. This allows the people of Michigan to have a say. This bill will also deter crime and protect innocent lives. In 2018 alone, there were 614 homicides in Michigan. According to a 40-year study using data from 1960 to 2000, researchers concluded that for each death penalty sentence, there were 18 fewer murders. Those are 18 innocent lives saved for each sentence, 18 fewer families who must endure the pain of losing a loved one. If the state of Michigan had 5 death penalty sentences each year, homicides would be reduced by nearly 15%, saving 90 innocent lives each year. Thank you. And I ask that you vote yes on the death penalty.
Thank you, Senator. Seeing no further debate, we will hear the closing arguments from both caucuses. From the opposing caucus, Senator Denny.
Thank you, Madam President. 4% of people on death row that were executed were innocent. This bill is a violation of our God-given right. This is America. We guarantee a right to life. The 2006 execution of Mr. Diaz was so humane. It was a lethal injection that took 34 minutes and required 2 doses. Doctors said his death was painful. This is terrible. We shouldn't treat our people like animals and put them down like dogs. Not only is it painful, but it put innocent lives at risk. Since 1973, 170 people have been exonerated and released from death row. We shouldn't take that chance. The question we need to ask about the death penalty in America is not whether someone deserves to die for a crime. The question is whether we deserve to kill. And the answer is we shouldn't. We are the state. When the state kills, we are participants. OADP.org says mentally ill people are executed. 1 out of every 10 who have been executed in the United States since 1977 is mentally ill. According to the NA on mental illness, many mental ill defendants are unable to participate in their own trials. They appear unengaged, cold, and have an unfeeling before the jury. Some have been forcibly medicated in order to make them competent to be executed. Although the U.S. Supreme Court has decreed that people with Down syndrome may not be executed, Oregon has not passed a law banning the execution of the mentally ill. This is truly heartbreaking. We as politicians need to protect our own people. We can't let this happen anymore. We cannot allow this. Be on the good side. Vote against Bill HJRH. Thank you.
Senator. And from the sponsoring caucus, Senator Wong. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I, Senator Wong of the Liberty Green Caucus, urge you to vote yea on the House Joint Resolution H, allowing the death penalty for first-degree murders. We have already shown you multiple times and cited several sources showing how the death penalty upholds the sanctity of life. First, it shows that Michigan takes malicious murderers very, very seriously. Second, it deters murderers. It saves lives. As we have said before, multiple studies spanning many years in all 50 states agree that death penalty saves lives. For every execution, 18 murders are prevented. The opposing caucus will argue that the state doesn't have the right to execute. The same argument could be applied. The state doesn't have the right to jail people. It doesn't have the right to punish. But that is what the government does. It makes sure that we prevent and punish crime. And it doesn't just punish the murderer. It saves 18 lives every time we do it. Again, innocent people will not be executed. DNA testing and the abundance of appeals for execution ensure this. The 170 people exonerated, they were never executed. According to Cass Sunstein, as quote, capital punishment presents a life trade-off and a serious commitment to the sanctity of human life. Which may well compel rather than forbid that form of punishment. The familiar problems of capital punishment, potential error, irreversibility, arbitrariness, erasure skew do not argue in favor of abolition because the world of homicide suffers from those same problems in an even more acute form. So we see that we are saving, those lives saved are worth the murderer being punished. According to David Malhausen, the director of the National Institute of Justice, quote, capital punishment protects innocents, holds society's most vicious criminals accountable, and are legitimate functions of federal and state governments, unquote. And for all these reasons, I strongly urge you to vote yea on House Joint Resolution H.
Thank you, Senator.
Madam President, I move the previous question.
Without objection, the previous question is ordered and the bill is now on third reading. We will vote on the passage of this bill. Please vote indicate your vote on your screen. The clerk will give the count.
Madam President, there are 7 yes votes, 7 no votes, and 1 abstention.
The bill receiving an insufficient number of votes is not passed. At this time, we have considered both bills, and so you may unmute your microphone, and we're going to recognize the senators for their hard work put forward in this session. So if you would join me in congratulating them.
Madam President, I move that the Senate will stand to recess at the call of the chair.
Without objection, we will take a 10-minute recess. You can have 10 minutes to do what you need to, and please return by 2:05.
So do we know, is John gonna switch setups?
I just saw him there, so maybe yes.
No, there's an empty chair. Hey John, how's your mic working right now?
Are there issues with it?
I just wanted to hear it. I think it's fine.
Who abstained?
Oh, sorry.
I don't think that's very professional, John.
As long as I'm not asking how they voted on my bills, I think it's fine. Hopefully.
Spring break, so.
Mozart. Okay then. You are not. Knock it off, Jonathan.
Yeah, don't say that. If anyone's gonna blow, it's me.
None of you
No,
are.
you're not.
You are all fearfully and wonderfully prepared, okay?
I got most of the fearful right now.
Just a reminder, guys, this is being recorded on YouTube.
It's a live streaming on YouTube, yeah.
That's why we're saying it.
One side liked those rebuttals. They like actually one person on one side really liked those rebuttals.
John, do I look like a sports analyst?
More or less, although they don't usually wear the polka dot or the tie. The tie is nice though. I
Actually, now that you said that, I can't unsee it. Like, I just imagine you like at a like a football game or something.
oh yeah. Uh-huh. With Senator Hayes.
Hello, everybody. I am not Amy Chauvin, just so you know, in case anyone got confused. So for the members of the House, which we're going to start the House session shortly, for the members of the House, you'll say Mr. Speaker, all right? It's not President in the House. It's Speaker, Mr. Speaker. If it was Amy, it would be Madam Speaker, but it's going to be Mr. Speaker. I'll be here for the whole House session. And Emma and Emily did such a great job during the Senate session. We invited them to come back. So they're going to be they didn't mess up, not even once that I could tell. They just like did their jobs perfectly. And that's amazing how you guys did that. That's awesome. Because even the real ones mess up sometimes. But we have perfect people for your floor leader and for your clerk. And if you're on the House floor for real, the way it works is the person who's in this chair here, the Speaker's chair, is way up high. And then down below him is the lowly clerk who's doing the, the counting. And then down below that on the floor is where the floor leader is. And actually the floor leader is a state rep. These guys aren't voting. The clerk isn't a state rep, but the floor leader always is. That's how it works. And just so you guys know, we're using what's called parliamentary procedure. Anytime you have a government, meeting of any kind, whether it's city council or whether it's a United States Senate, whatever it is, there's parliamentary procedure that has to be followed. And if you guys want to take a little note, one thing you can do is get a copy of a book that sort of outlines everything you need to know about parliamentary procedure. It's called Robert's Rules of Order. And almost every entity that does politics follows some version of Robert's Rules of Order. They may modify it somewhat. But the gentleman who wrote that book was a Christian, and he based the whole book on the idea that the scripture that says, let everything be done decently and in order. And a lot of political meetings were not done decently in order. If you remember early America, they actually had duels as a result of, political disagreements on the floor. They'd go out and shoot at each other. So Mr. Robert wrote this thing saying, we want to do it decently and in order. And everything in politics then after that, when he wrote this book, everybody has to speak to the speaker rather than to one another on the House floor or in a committee meeting. And the reason for that was to sort of provide a one person removed. And just a quick story about Michigan politics. There was a couple of senators back in the 80s who got into a heated argument on the Senate floor. And one of the guys walked over to the other guy. You're not supposed to do this. Everything is supposed to be to the president of the Senate. Well, anyway, one guy went over to the other guy, got right up in his face and just started saying things to him. And the other guy got mad and shoved him a little bit. And before it was over, those two guys were in a full-blown fist fight on the floor of the state Senate. This is one of the reasons why Robert's Rules is so important, right? And the sergeant of arms, the guys with the red coats, had to come and take them out of the gallery, right? Physically remove them from the floor. And so that's a story I tell all the time as to why Robert's Rules is so important, because there were 2 6th grade classes in the gallery that day who came to watch and see how Michigan government works. So I don't think they got too much of a positive education when it came to that. All right, so there's a good story. So we will be using Robert's Rules of Order. And even if you're speaking to your colleagues, you always speak to the speaker as a way of communicating to your colleagues. That's how it works. So I'm not voting, so you can't convince me of anything, but you have to speak to me as a way of communicating to the rest of the members on the House floor. Okay, so there's my little story. I vamped for about 4 minutes, so that's perfect. We're actually on schedule. for a 2:10 start. We have two bills we're going to take up. So I am going to call the meeting to order. The SSI lead legislative House session is now in order. And we need to have an opening prayer. So let me just do that since there's nobody in here to do the prayer. All right, let's bow our heads. Oh, by the way, in the real world, they open every legislative session with a prayer every time. And then they have the Pledge of Allegiance afterwards, which we'll do when I'm done with the prayer. So let's bow our heads. Thank you, Lord, for this time. Thank you, God, that you are the sovereign Lord over all of the earth, that you are the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, and that all authority comes from you and all flows back to you, Lord. I thank you for this chance that we have to interact in this environment, on this house floor, even though it's simulated. I thank you for every one of these young people. I pray that you give them quiet confidence and boldness and courage. I pray, God, that you'll just fill them with your spirit, Lord, give them wisdom beyond their years. And Lord, let this experience that we're having together glorify you first off, Lord, and also teach us things about how to be good, responsible Christian citizens throughout our lives, Lord. So we commit our way to you today. Thank you for this time in Jesus' name. And everybody said, all right, so I'm going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to step over here. Nope, I'm going to step over here. All right, so you ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. The House session is in order. Madam Clerk, could you please give us the roll call?
Mr. Speaker, there are 15 members present.
We have 15 members present and voting, which means, as in the first session, you have to have 8 votes to pass a bill. A tie is like kissing your sister. It doesn't work. You don't get any bills if you just tie, right? So you have to have 50% plus 1 vote, and that's how you win the bill. Okay. Madam Floor Leader, is there a motion on the floor?
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up item number 1 on the calendar, House Bill 4006.
All right, House Bill 4006 is now open for debate. Jefferson Blue is the caucus that's sponsoring this bill. And so the sponsors have 4 minutes to tell us why this bill is good. Starting with Representative Furness, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am Bass from the Jefferson Blue Caucus, and I am here representing my caucus in support of Bill 4006. On March 21, 2011, Eric Lee Franks checked out of a hotel in Saginaw, Michigan, and disappeared. The evidence was little, and there were few witnesses. Law enforcement really did not have much to work with as the trail got colder and colder. Another story involves Lonnie Wilkins from Pittsfield Township, Michigan, who went missing last seen at a Kroger grocery store. Again, because of lack of information and scanty evidence, police had little to work with and could not track down this man. In these stories, 2 key pieces were needed in order to provide effective help: evidence and facts. Bill 4006 attempts to fix these problems. I would first like to point out the overarching goal of this bill: to provide quick aid and to save life. Simply put, this is a goal that we all must have and that we all must support, and this bill provides simple measures to do just that. This bill states that police officers and law enforcement can require wireless carriers or cell phone companies to provide location information in the case of emergencies. This will give police officers quick and easy access to evidence that can help them in the cases like the ones given earlier. Currently, 556 people are missing in Michigan. Cases like these arise every day, and police officers and phone companies want to help more in this area, but often don't know how. Bill 4006 provides these institutions and organizations with a straightforward means to help. Another broad reason for this bill is that we need to use technology intelligently. Around 45% of the people in Michigan use an iPhone. This is a high number considering all those young and old who do not yet have a phone. My point is that as technology and phones become more popular and common in our culture, we need to start to utilize the advantages that they provide. Through this bill, law enforcement can utilize this technology very well through simple, quick tracking. Based on all these reasons and this evidence, I urge my colleagues to pass this desperately needed piece of legislation. Remember to vote yes on bill number 4006. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Furness. Say it right this time. All right, that was good. Now we'll be followed also in support Representative John Hayes, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As you know, every year thousands of people go missing, whether they are abducted for various reasons or out hiking, injured, no way being recovered. The fact of the matter is, it happens, and this bill allows for these people to receive aid. As you know, these days, almost everyone from the ages of 10 is carrying around a wireless device. By approving this bill, law enforcement will be able to receive snapshot of information from the person's wireless provider nearly instantly, forgoing the long process of having to have a warrant and have approved by a judge.
Hey, Representative, your mic isn't working all that well. Can you take it away from your mouth a little bit so we can hear it? It's a little bit too hot, I think, and it's breaking up a lot. So. Got some feedback in your. Emma says it's the part that plugs into your computer. It might not be all the way in or something. That's worse. Okay, try talking again.
Hello? Is it fine?
Okay. Now that's better. Sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted everybody to be able to hear your arguments.
Okay.
Yeah, are you there? You have to unmute your mic now. Can you unmute him, Zeke?
He's gonna use mine instead.
Perfect.
Yeah.
As you know, almost everyone from the ages 10 and up is carrying around a wireless device. And by approving this bill, the law enforcement will be able to receive a snapshot of the location information from the person's wireless provider nearly instantly, forgoing the long process of having to have a warrant and having it approved by a judge. This bill will help aid emergency responders in a way that is invaluable, saving many lives. I strongly support this bill, and I sincerely implore you to vote yes to House Bill 4006. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Representative. That was much better, much clearer at the end. That was awesome. All right, also in support, we have Representative Savannah Greenwich. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill not only helps the law enforcement agency, it gives hope to the victim and the family of the victim. When someone gets kidnapped, the terrified victims would have faith that they would be found because the police would have an advantage that they didn't have before to begin the search. This bill would help the lost be found. Imagine one of your loved ones gets abducted. Wouldn't you use every resource possible? Kelsey's family tried to. They requested her cell phone location, but the cell phone company would not give any information to the law enforcement. After 4 long days, the cell phone company finally gave the law enforcement her location. After they received this information, they found her body about an hour later. Please vote yes on the House Bill 4006. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Okay, as always, there is opposition to this bill. The opposing arguments, Representative Jonathan Sharath will be first.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm here in opposition to House Bill number 4006. I'd just like to say how not every law enforcement officer is good and not every law enforcement officer is bad. Therefore, to make sure every law enforcement officer doesn't take advantage of this, how are they going to prevent this? And even if they did an oath, how can we trust that? Based on a true story, there was a law enforcement officer who took advantages of his privilege of being an officer and committed over 150 crimes, including rapes, murders, and robberies. This law enforcement officer was never caught or charged 44 years after he committed the crime. And now so many lives and people were affected by him, and so many people can be affected by just one law enforcement officer who takes advantage of a person's location. Even though the amount of corrupt law enforcement officers are lower than good law enforcement officers, this could damage families because every family and person is valuable. Therefore, please vote against this law for being passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Also in opposition, Representative Scarlett Greenwich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Scarlett Greenwich, and I am against Bill 4006. Not every person will find themselves in danger and need their life saved, yet this bill gives police access to everybody's location. Last year, out of 10 million people in Michigan, around 10,000 were kidnapped. This leaves 9,990,000 people that weren't, which means that 9,990,000 won't be affected by this if it becomes a law. That's only 0.001% that would be affected by this law. Don't get me wrong, you can't put a person's life, but there are other resources out there. There's an app called Life 360 that is free, and you can see exactly where the person is at all times. You can see them moving in, you get notifications about where they are, and if they're driving, how fast they're going. That's not the only app either. There's Bark, Custodia, which is available in 8 languages, WebWatcher, NetNanny, Family Time, and Norton. This gives the individual or family a choice to be found. Why do we need to give our personal information to complete strangers? As Representative Schroth said before me, not all police are good. They can get away with many things. And as my colleagues after me will say, the punishment isn't sufficient. Please, I urge the Senate to vote nay on this bill, not only because there are already resources out there, but not everyone will need help because not everybody is in danger. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. All right, also in opposition, Representative Janowick. Oh, I missed one. Representative Greenwich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill clearly states a law enforcement officer who requests, accesses, uses, or discloses device information obtained under this act for personal use or gain is guilty of a misdemeanor punishable by imprisonment for not more than 93 days or a fine not more than $500 or both. This is clearly a very weak punishment for this offense. The punishment never states that a cop will lose his job. Therefore, a law enforcement officer can commit this crime, pay the fine, or spend time in jail, or both, and keep his job. This means a person's information can be used incorrectly or leaked without the officer losing his job. For a regular person, if you are found guilty of the above described offense, you are facing felony status and up to 5 years in prison and fines up to $10,000. It's quite more than the officer's punishment. I believe law enforcement officers should be held up to a higher standard than civilians themselves. I oppose Bill 4006, and I plead you to vote no on this bill.
Okay, thank you, Representative. And now in opposition as well, Representative Janowick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Cassetta Janowick, and I am against Bill number 4006. The Fourth Amendment from our Constitution says, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. The Heritage Guide to the Constitution says, the Fourth Amendment is indescribably broad. Every one of the millions of arrests made annually is a Fourth Amendment event. So too is every search of every person or private area by a public official, whether a police officer, school teacher, probation officer, airport security agent, or corner crossing guard. The Fourth Amendment is the constitutional sentry whenever someone's privacy is diminished by a governmental search or seizure. It protects a person's legitimate expectation of privacy. Well, now the question is asked, what does privacy mean? The American Dictionary of the English Language answers this question. Privacy, 1, a state of being in retirement from the company or observation of others. In short, secrecy. Based on the mere definition, Bill 4006 is an emotional overreach
into private citizens' lives by fallible human beings who are prone to abuse power. Once a bill is passed, there is no going back. The people become accustomed to it and forget the freedoms they once knew. I ask for your vote against this bill, and I hope that you realize that it violates our Constitution. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative, and thank you all for your opposition. We now have sponsoring caucus rebuttal arguments, and delivering those will be Representative Licklider. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Jonathan Licklider, and I am in favor of Bill 4006. The opposing caucus noted that this bill very easily allows police abuse. This bill provides safeguards, but I say that this bill provides safeguards for the victims. It also severely punishes police officers for misusing this information because they do not want a blot such as this will put on their record. They have pride in their job and they do not want this blot on their job. This is also not used as is not used to track people. This only provides a snapshot in time of where the person is. It does not follow the person. It does not track the person. As for their allegations that this is a violation of privacy, the law enforcement also would not be able to access, use, or disclose information from a wireless operator more than 48 hours after the initial emergency without a request, without a court order. As for this also does not require wireless they do achieve access to text and phone calls to and from that person, but it does not have the names of any of the people to whom the texts or phone calls are made to. They also say that there are apps that could do this job, do just as effective job. But those apps are usually used by parents to track their children, and most adults do not have these apps on their phones. This bill also prevents the victims from suing the wireless operators, but there is no such section in place for the apps. There is no liability, releases of liability for these apps. This opens a whole Pandora's box of lawsuits that will have to be handled. This will not work this will not do the job nearly as efficiently as the bill will. In conclusion, this bill is vital and must be passed. People are being abducted and are lost every day. These victims and their families are counting on this bill being passed. Me and my colleagues implore you to pass House Bill 4006. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Representative. We've heard the sponsoring arguments, we've heard the opposing arguments, we've heard the rebuttal arguments, and now it's time to bring this issue to a vote. If you've been assigned to it, you have to vote for it, against it. Otherwise, you senators, you guys are going to get to choose how this vote is going to go. So I think we have a poll there, all in favor of, excuse me. Okay, I'm getting signals from Zeke. No, yes, no, it is yes. Okay, you have a poll there that if you're in favor of this bill, please answer in the affirmative, vote aye. If you're opposed to the bill, please vote nay. If you have an abstention, you can't make up your mind, that should be very rare. Please indicate that, and then when all of those votes are counted, we'll announce the tally. He's holding up 2 fingers. I guess that's not victory, that's 2. Okay.
We're still waiting on 2 votes. All right, one vote.
1 vote left. Everyone has to vote. No one gets out alive, right? Got to make a choice. All right, we now have the vote. Clerk will give the count, please.
Mr. Speaker, there are 9 yes votes, 6 no votes, and 0 abstentions.
9-6, the bill receiving a sufficient number of votes is passed. You can give yourselves a hand clap for a great debate. Way to go, guys. Good job.
Mr. Speaker, I move that we take up item number 2 on the calendar, House Bill 4162.
Okay, we're moving on to item number 2 on today's calendar, House Bill 4162, which would prohibit bullying in schools, sponsored by the Jefferson Green Caucus. All right, sponsors are going to give opening arguments. We're going to start with Representative Jonathan Sherratt. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Representative Jonathan Sherratt from Jefferson Green, representing my caucus, sponsoring House Bill number 4162. This bill prevents the amount of bullying inside school perimeters and anything to do with school events. So many people get bullied and many also commit suicide. To save people or let everyone live fairly and not commit anything damaging to themselves, this bill will help employees prevent bullying in school and includes anything that deals with school. If we teach these types of behaviors at school, it will help slowly prevent people doing it outside of school. So this bill will help every person who's getting bullied in anything that has to deal with it. Many people on the way back from home or towards school, they get harmed emotionally and physically. That would scar them for the rest of their life. And so please join me and my caucus and vote yay for House Bill number 4162.
Thank you, Representative. Also in support will be Representative Scarlett Greenwich.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Scarlett Greenwich. I am for the bill 4162. This bill is vital for Michigan schools. Education is important, yet children live in fear of going to school each day. They are focused on surviving bullying rather than learning. As many as 1 in 3 students report being bullied. Clearly, there is a need to protect our children. Michigan ranks 13 out of the 51 states and districts for bullying, not a rank we should be proud of. Youth True did a survey of over 80,000 kids. They found that an extreme discontent between students' reality and teachers' perception. This school, which was in Philadelphia, took some of the same steps, and in 3 years, the students reported 3 to 15% drop in bullying in the district. Reducing bullying in Michigan schools creates a more enjoyable environment for children and cultivates an environment of learning, and in turn will create less lawsuits for the school. Between 2009 and 2017, Michigan's average for bullying lawsuits cost over $30,000 each. As you can clearly see, this helps our schools' financial help, but also more importantly, our students' mental and physical health and their well-being. I urge each one of you to vote for the bill 4162. Vote for the children of Michigan. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Representative. Also in support, Representative Ethan Greffish, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm here in support of Bill 4162. I got this information from listverse.com. Late on October 7th, 2003, the parents of Ryan Holligan were changed permanently. That night, Ryan committed suicide by hanging. The parents of Ryan searched for why he would commit suicide. Through grades 5th through 7, Ryan began to suffer intense bullying from his classmates, leading him to confess a fear to his parents of going back to school. Ryan's parents decided to put him in martial arts. Ryan began to learn how to defend himself. This seemed to solve a problem, but actually did little to nothing because bullying continued online. Comments were made about his sexuality, and even his girlfriend joined in, telling online friends that she had gone out with him for a joke. This was the final thing that Ryan could handle, and Ryan killed himself at the age of 13. I plead that Bill 4162 passes so that less kids don't have to suffer from bullying, parents don't have to suffer from the loss of their kids from suicide. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. And now we'll pivot to the opposing arguments. Sponsored by Jefferson Blue, Representative John Hayes, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm Representative John Hayes from the Jefferson Blue Caucus, and while I do not support House Bill 4162, I do believe that bullying is an extremely important issue. A proper education is one of the very most important things in a child's life. But because of bullying, countless children are deprived of the opportunity to have a safe place to pursue a proper education. Bullying can affect this process in very extreme ways. Students are known to have received mental health issues, including depression, and in some cases, it resulted in them committing suicide as a result of the bullying. As we all agree, bullying must be dealt with, but doing it by passing this bill is not the right way to do it. This bill, although it has very good intentions, is flawed. For one, it is very cryptic, with many details and definitions left up to the interpretation of the public schools. The public schools that, despite always having the ability to put into effect an anti-bullying policy, have taken no action. I believe that if this bill is passed, the schools, who have already proven that they do not care enough to take actual action, would not give punishment that is substantial enough to those who break the policy. In turn, I believe that the bullying would continue. My friends, we need a stronger solution to our problem, a solution that would not require constant amendments. As members of the House of Representatives, it is our duty to write good pieces of legislation into law for the good of the people. This bill is not that. I sincerely urge and implore you, my colleagues, to vote no to House Bill 4162. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Also, let's see, in opposition, Representative Grace Galanders.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Representative Grace Galanders, and I am here to speak in opposition of House Bill 4162. While bullying is an issue, this bill does not offer an effective solution. I, along with my caucus, say this because although the bill requires schools to create a policy and implement it into their school, they cannot force schools to follow through with this policy. A school can easily create a policy, submit it to the Department of Education as the bill requires, and then continue as normal without incorporating said policy into the function of the school. Many schools will not want to bother with the extra expense of annual training of staff and volunteers, thus rendering this bill ineffective. As representatives, we have a duty to pass legislation that will benefit the people of Michigan. In this case, bullying victims, young men and women who suffer through their school years. As passing this law will not significantly reduce bullying in the state of Michigan, our job is not being accomplished. If you find this argument insufficient, consider subsection 2D. Quote, each school district's or public school academy's policy shall include age-appropriate consequences and remedial action for a person who violates the policy. End quote. As you can see, this leaves it to the school to decide appropriate punishments. Schools that have problems with bullying have those problems because they haven't adopted a policy to combat the bullying. Creating a law that allows them to define things themselves will only further encourage them to define with leniency. And while I prefer to keep government involvement at a minimum, I believe that this is a case in which some schools have proven themselves incapable of creating an effective policy. Based on all this persuasive testimony and evidence, I urge my esteemed colleagues to vote no on Bill 4162. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Also in opposition, Representative Licklider.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Jonathan Licklider, and I am speaking in opposition to this bill. House Bill 4162 is completely unnecessary. It restates many of the previous school laws, and schools can still have anti-bullying programs without this bill. Instead, we should put our support behind the schools with higher bullying rates and pass amendments to the revised school codes, because although this would take more time in the short term, in the long term, it will benefit the bullying victims much more. It does not make sense to pass a new bill every time a problem occurs, when certain amendments to the school code will do a much better job. Me and my colleagues believe this bill is very unnecessary. So I ask that you vote no against House Bill 4162. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. And the last representative in opposition, Representative Benjamin Furness.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Licklider. Like my Jefferson Blue colleagues before me, I stand in opposition to Bill 4162. First, I would like to reaffirm what my colleagues have said, which is that bullying is mean and evil. It is not an action or idea that any of us want to encourage or support. And that is exactly the reason why I'm in opposition to this bill. I do not want bullying to be a problem, and this bill would do very little to fix this issue well, which makes it ineffective and unimportant. As my colleagues have noted, the lack of clarity in this bill allows for misinterpretation, incorrect accusations, and in the end, little improvement to the bullying problem. A prime example of this weakness comes in subsection 2K of the bill, which states that schools must provide provisions encouraging individuals to report incidents of harassment or bullying to the appropriate school official designated in the policy. While this is a good thought and there are consequences if one does not report, this still does very little to actually enforce this policy and make individuals report. Individuals are also given lots of power to wrongly accuse or interpret as they wish. As seen here, vague, indirect language from this bill leaves tons of loopholes and problems with the bill. Bullies can still find ways to do what they want or take advantage of those they know will not report. My colleagues and I believe that with these dangerous potential problems, Bill 4162 needs significant change and should definitely not be passed at this time. In light of the reasons my colleagues have presented, along with my evidence, I strongly urge my other colleagues to see the need for a stronger, more effective bill and vote no on Bill 4162. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative, and all the representatives in opposition. We now have the rebuttal arguments by the sponsoring caucus, led by Representative Cosetta Janowick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am for Bill number 4162. Bullying has been happening in schools for many generations. Young students have been known to commit suicide after being bullied at school. Lobbyist Frank Dame said, quote, "My goal each day was to get home from school without any scars," unquote. These scars meant physical or emotional harm. Frank Dame also said, quote, "The damage that bullies can do is depression, anxiety, and inner self, lower grade point averages, and an increase in risk of student suicides. This is not just a matter of name calling, it is a matter of life and death." Lobbyist Jeff Hall said, quote, "Any decent person would be against bullying," unquote. If this bill is passed, it will take active steps to train school employees to correct the harassers and slowly begin moving bullying out of school. This bill only protects school property, as in the school grounds, school vehicles, school bus stops, and walking to and from school. Cyberbullying is an at-home issue. This bill cannot control online harassment. Bill number 4162 states that, quote, "School premises on school bus or other school-related vehicle at an official school bus stop on a pupil's way to or from school." So this bill will protect students from being bullied on school grounds. Please vote for this bill since it will save young lives from harm. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Representative. All of you for good arguments. Seeing no further debate, Madam Floor Leader, is there a motion on the floor?
Mr. Speaker, I move the previous question.
Okay, that's parliamentary speak for time to bring this issue to a vote. So we're once again going to have the poll there. All those in favor of the bill answer by saying yay. All those opposed by saying nay. And if you have to abstain, you may do that as well. Okay, Zeke tells me that all the votes have been registered. Madam Clerk, would you give the count, please?
Mr. Speaker, there are 5 yes votes, 10 no votes, and 0 abstentions.
5, 10, and 0. That means the bill has received an insufficient number of votes and it did not pass. All right, give yourselves a hand for that one more time. Good job. Well done, you guys. I can hear all of your applause through the tens of hundreds of miles that separate us. Not really. Okay. Okay, so we're done with the House session. And in the real world, the way that works is there has to be a motion for it to end. You have to have a motion to adjourn. So is there somebody, can you close that poll thing there, Zeke? Zekerific? I'm gonna redo the Senate. Yeah. So we have some nefarious plans going on here. All right, so I need someone to give me a motion to adjourn the House session.
I so move.
Oh, that's it. Perfect. The motion has been made. Is there a second on the motion to adjourn? Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Okay, I see all those seconds. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of adjourning signify by putting your thumb up. All those opposed to adjourning, do a thumbs down. All right, I see one. Okay, all right. We are now adjourned. However, it came to my attention that the Senate had one bill that was a tie, 7-7, with one abstention. Is that correct? Yeah, that's correct. So we have gone to the sponsors, and this is actual real thing that happens in politics sometimes, is that a member on the floor can ask for something called a reconsideration of the vote. And what that does is it allows for the motion to be brought up and the reconsideration, and both sides have time to sort of re-argue it, and then they'll do a re-vote. So technically you have to have a 2/3 majority in order to do a reconsideration. However, by the power vested in me as the sometimes benevolent dictator of SSI, we're going to waive that, and I'm going to say that it's going to be done by decree of the chair. So I need a member of the Liberty Green Caucus to make a motion for reconsideration. Oh, Senate is now in order to make a motion for reconsideration.
Mr. President, I move that we take up House Joint Resolution H.
For, you got to say the word.
For reconsideration.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Got to have that word in there, otherwise it doesn't work. All right, is there a second for the reconsideration motion?
I second.
Okay, there's a second. All right, so all those in favor, doesn't matter because I'm decreeing that we're doing a reconsideration. All right, so here's what we're going to do. The sponsors are going to get 1 minute to tell you, rehash this bill, 30 seconds, and the opponents are going to get a minute to say no, 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 and the sponsors are going to get 30 seconds for rebuttal. So we're going to do that just in a minute, so prepare yourself. And this is another one of those things by the power vested in me. If you go to Minnesota and you participate in their House of Representatives, they do not allow members to abstain. They require everyone to vote either yes or no. So what I'm going to do on this final one is I'm going to forbid the abstain vote, give both sides a chance to reconsider this, and then we're going to vote again and see what happens if the abstain is taken away. So the sponsors can have their 30 seconds, whoever wishes to do that.
Thank you, Mr. President. Opposing House Joint Resolution H is dangerous. We are letting criminals get away with life terms instead of justice. 18 lives will be saved with each criminal that is executed. We are saving lives. Furthermore, the people of Michigan will have the opportunity to vote on this bill. We are giving Michigan a say. Also, it is very unlikely that an innocent prisoner will be executed with the deep investigations and DNA testing that is done with death penalty cases. The director of the National Institute of Justice, David Maholzen, said, quote, "Capital punishment protects innocence, holds society's most vicious criminals accountable, and are legitimate functions of federal and state governments," end quote. I strongly urge you to vote yes on House Joint Resolution H to justly punish murderers and to save lives. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That's the sponsors with their final argument. Is anyone from the opposition ready to make opposing arguments?
Right here. Thank
Go
you,
for
Mr.
it.
Speaker. As I already stated, 4% of people who have been executed by the death penalty were innocent. And as I say again, 1 out of every 10 who have been executed since 1977 are mentally ill. Again, in the 2006 execution of Mr. Diaz, they said it was a humane lethal injection, but it took 34 minutes and required 2 doses, and he was in extreme pain. Back to the mentally ill, 1 out of every 10 who have been executed, again, are mentally ill. This is disgusting. They need help. They should not be put down for their mental illness. And the state should not kill people. And 170 people have been exonerated and released from death row. These people, 170 people, could have been killed if they weren't exonerated. The death penalty has already killed innocent people. There could be more people, innocent people, that get killed by the death penalty. Do not vote for the death penalty. It is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Sponsors, final 30 seconds. Who's going to do that?
I will.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. The opposing caucus is avoiding the issue. We have again and again brought up evidence that no innocent people will be put to death. Their stats are outdated. DNA testing today prevents the execution of innocent people. Mentally ill people cannot be executed. The Supreme Court recently ruled this. Those 170 people were ruled innocent because of the DNA testing evidence we have today. And they have brought up no evidence against the 40-year study finding that for every murderer justly put to death, we are saving 18 lives. 18 lives. This isn't just a bill that punishes murderers. It actively saves lives. If we do not pass this bill, we are condemning 18 people to die. These are 18 lives that could be saved with this bill. You have to realize that the people who are being executed here are murderers. They are serial killers, first-degree murderers. In 2019, there was a case where a murderer intentionally plotted and executed a murder of a mother and her unborn baby maliciously. These are the people being executed. The people being executed are not those against whom there's little evidence, but rather overwhelming evidence. So I earnestly urge you to vote yes, reinstitute the death penalty, save lives, and punish those first-degree murderers.
Okay, seeing no further debate, is there a motion
Mr.
on the
Speaker,
floor?
I'd like to rebuttal.
We are done. We have no more time. That's it. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Madam Floor Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I move the previous question.
Mr. President, but that's okay. All right, so we are going to vote again, and whatever you voted the first time, you are now hereby, by the power vested in me, released from that vote. And you can now vote any way you want, except for if you've been assigned it for and again. No, they can actually vote any way they want. No, they have to vote for. Okay, senators, you know what to do. House members, yes or no, no abstentions in this one. On your mark, get set, vote.
Yeah.
And Mr. Zekerific behind that computer over there will give us the. Did someone abstain? Okay, thou shalt not abstain. Okay, that's the word of the Lord. Okay. Are we good? Okay, Madam Clerk will give the count, please.
Mr. President, there are 9 yes votes, 6 no votes, and 0 abstentions.
9 to 6 is 15. All right. Well, the vote is in, so the bill does pass. All right. So motion to adjourn the Senate. One of you people?
I motion that we have.
You say, I move to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Yeah, motion is the noun, move is the verb. Okay. Is there a second to adjourn the Senate?
I second it.
Seconded. All those in favor of adjourning the Senate signify by lifting thumbs up. All the thumbs up are there. The Senate is adjourned. All right. Good job, you guys. Seriously. You guys, especially you first-time students, I love your arguments. I love your passion. I love the way you engaged and just jumped right in there. And the senators, you guys were amazing. So thank you for everything that you've done. Okay, so we've got a few minutes before we actually do our final session. Lead Elite is finishing up their stuff over in the other room there. So what I want you guys to do right now is I want you to grab your evaluation forms. And those are in your Moodle site. Whoops, right there. So I want you guys to grab those. And we're going to take a few minutes here and give you a chance to sort of fill that out so you don't have to do it later. And then after we're done with that, if you could take a few minutes, just type in your thoughts from the week, the good parts, things that you thought could have been better, or things that you learned and things that, you know, maybe God showed you this week or whatever. So please take some time to do that. Right now, we're going to take maybe about 5, 6, 7 minutes if you could get that done. Anybody have any problem accessing that form? Maybe send a text or something.
Tell them to hit refresh.
Hit refresh is what Mr. Zekarific is saying to do. And that should allow you to do that. So if you could fill those out. And then after that's over with, we're going to take a few minutes. If any one of you guys want to share something that happened this week that you thought was good, a good experience. If you have a testimony, if you have something, you know, maybe even something silly that somebody said that you thought was really funny, you could share that as well. That might be Amy or that might be somebody else. It won't be me, I'm sure. But we'll take a few minutes for that. And then hopefully by around quarter after, all of the, maybe 10 after, all the elite people will join us. And then we'll be able to go on and do the final session with the moms and the dads and everybody else who's here. And then everybody can be on their way. I'm sad that the week is over, but excited to have worked with you guys this week. So fill out your evaluation forms if you could, and we will give you 4 or 5 minutes to do that. So thank you. You can mute us if you want.
Quick observation. Thank you to Senator Wong. We realized that the evaluation forms we gave you were crew evaluation, not House or Senate. Now, some of the questions are going to be the same. So if you keep this window open, open back up your Moodle. We're going to make sure, actually in the link of this chat, we're going to get the correct evaluation. You can copy some of your answers over, but there are going to be some other questions. So just a minute.
Don't hit submit if you've finished that evaluation.
Thou shalt submit the crew evaluation. Thou shalt submit the student evaluation. We like to speak in King James English around here. It's really cool.
All right, guys, we have posted the accurate link in the chat. So click that, copy over the answers that are still applicable, and go ahead and fill in the rest of the questions you weren't able to touch. We're going to give you guys a couple more minutes for this, and then we're going to start testimonies. So if you're not able to finish, then you can finish it afterwards, or finding some time to do that. Thank you for that.
Okay, everybody, we are back. Thank you for filling those out, and we got all the bugs worked out, I hope. And we're going to take a few minutes here, maybe next 5 or so. Anybody has something they'd like to share with everybody else? Number one, you could say, hey, man, I came to this thing thinking it was going to be horrible, and I actually maybe enjoyed myself, or I thought it was going to be really good and it was different, or maybe God spoke something to you, or something you just want to say to the rest of your colleagues. Anybody who wants to take a minute for that? We always do this in the real world, you know, at SSI in the summer. So anybody who has something they'd like to share, you don't have to have a big old long speech. It can just be something short or something a little more in-depth if you want. So anybody in that category? Yes, no, maybe? And you can continue filling out your evaluation forms while we're doing this part of it if you want. It can be a senator, it can be a House member. Could be an ADC. There we go. I see that hand. Go for it.
I guess I really just enjoyed reading bills in-depthly and looking into bills like that. I guess it's not something that I've ever really done before. And so having that experience and then like being able to extrapolate from that experience and argue about the bill, I think was something that was really rewarding for me and really a cool experience. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Most people never do what you guys are doing. Actually, this experience puts you in like the top 1% in terms of how much you understand about how this whole process works and how difficult it is. A lot of students have told me in the past that they think, wow, the job of a legislator is not as easy as I thought it was. You know, they don't sitting around in a room. They, you know, you really got to dig in and do your homework. So anybody else?
I like how everyone was like positive. Even if we lost, we just cheered each other up.
Yeah, that's really good. Encouragement is a big part of it, right? Go ahead. I see your hand. Go for it.
I'd just like to say that it's very difficult to be funny online.
Oh, yeah? Are you talking about me?
No, for everybody else, it's really hard to make a joke.
Oh, my gosh. That's hilarious, actually. That's actually funnier than the jokes. Anybody else? Come on, you guys, talk up. Don't be quiet now.
Elite is doing this. Yeah. So if you want to explain what.
Okay, Elite is just joining us. Awesome, you guys. Thanks for coming over. We're going to do the final session in just a moment, maybe 5 minutes. We're just doing testimony time. If any of you guys wanted to share a shout out or a thank you or a here's what God spoke to me or here's what I thought was good or whatever, you can do that as well. Anybody else? Just raise. I can't see everybody, but you can just unmute yourself when you raise your hand and go for it.
I loved the connection me and my caucus got. We had a lot of fun, and also devotions every morning were just a great start to the day and always putting us on the right track in our thoughts. We might be busy with trying to write speeches or whatever, but the important thing is that our thoughts and our actions and our words are pointing to Christ. And the bills don't matter. It's what we learn about leadership and what we learn about Christ being our own and in our hearts. And so, yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. That's repeating back to us what we've prayed for months about this experience. So that's awesome. Thanks. Anybody else?
I had something good.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So I didn't know how I was going to be online, but as the days unfolded, there were some times when I just forgot that I was on a screen. I just thought I was there with the people. Like we were just getting so in, because it wasn't like, it was because we were getting so embroiled in our thoughts and just like trying to think up new ideas and just like pushing us to think new things and expand our minds on things that are good. And I just thought I just learned so much this week, and I'm really impressed on how well it went. And yeah, so thanks to everybody who put this on.
Boy, that's awesome. As a matter of fact, I was one of the guys that thought when we first were forced to do this, I was the one, the guy said, you know what, guys, this is going to be really hard. I don't know if this is going to work. And then I had all these people tell me, oh, yeah, well, this will be fine. And I'm like, okay. But now it's way better than I thought it was going to be, too. So that's awesome. Anybody else? Just jump in. Yep, see that hand, go for it.
I just thought that it was really fun. When my dad first told me that it wouldn't be happening at the camp, I was really disappointed. And then I was sort of like, online, how's that gonna work? And I really thought it'd be boring and we'd be like just doing random, not fun stuff. And then I started doing it and I was like, wow, this is amazing.
That's so cool. Wonderful to hear that. That's great. You know, a lot of kids come to SSI the very first time with pretty low expectations, even when it's the real one, right? And so that's an online version. I know it's even lower expectations. All right, anybody else? We got a couple more minutes here. You guys jump in.
Dakota, go ahead.
Thanks. I just want to say, a lot of you know I'm an elite track student this year, and that's the only advanced track that was available. Doing SSI for the past couple years has been the highlight of my summer. And so when I found out it wasn't going to be in person, I was absolutely devastated because I had originally signed up for Moot Court. And I still signed up for online thinking, it'll be good because my friends will still be online, but it's not going to be like it is in person. And now I've come to the conclusion, no, it's not like it is in person at all, but that's okay. Through this week, we have, us elite track students, we have our advanced worldview sessions, and those really pushed us to have these difficult conversations on morality and ethics. And even though it was difficult, I enjoyed it so much. And, things didn't always go my way during the week, especially in the committee meeting on Wednesday. And I was really upset about that. And then I started thinking, you know what? This isn't all about me. God could be working in someone else through this. And, getting out a final debate just a few minutes ago, not everything went my way. Some things did, but I'm okay with the fact that not everything went my way. And I would say that's the real important lesson I've learned from camp this year. And, despite it being online, I still had a really amazing time and it has really impacted me.
That's awesome. That's really cool. By the way, one of the lessons that you learn in life is almost very rarely does everything go your way. I think you guys might know that, right? And that's kind of a really big lesson. How do you react when it doesn't go your way, right? What do you do? That's awesome. Great testimony. Time for one more. Anybody else? One more. One more.
Yep.
Whatever that is. That wasn't a very good testimony. I need one final one. Anybody?
I was gonna take it, but then we had that. But since no one else is gonna take it, I'll try again, a different method.
Amy's gonna try. All right.
I think, honestly.
Hey, Amy, I saw Emma Denoy's hand up.
Emma Denoy? Yeah, you take it. Go ahead. I can talk all I want somewhere else.
Are you sure, Amy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I just wanted to say that I think, like everyone, I didn't have as high of expectations for Lead Online because I did it in person so many times. But I think what I was most not really, I wasn't not looking forward to it, but I wasn't exactly looking forward to it was the worldview sessions because I have been through 4 worldview sessions by now and worldview sessions on my own too. So I was thinking, really, is he kind of ignorantly, of course, and a little bit arrogantly, is he really going to tell me anything I don't know?
Oh.
And yeah, he actually did. And I think it was just really cool in the worldview sessions, giving me fodder to think of through what I believe, and you know how that turned into, of course, lunchroom debates or anything. So I just would encourage everyone to come back and do an advanced track, and so they can do advanced worldview.
Awesome, awesome. Amy, go ahead and share what you were going to share.
Yeah, honestly, if anyone knows me, you know how much I love like camp and being with you guys and being there physically with you guys. I'm a very physical person. I'm always hugging people or giving people back rubs. And this format was really difficult for me, but it was so cool to, even in midst of all these difficulties. We couldn't have camp, that's such a shame, but this was such an amazing possibility, and it was so good to see you guys. And if this was your first year, it was so good to meet you guys.
Yes.
And spend lunch with you guys and have these amazing discussions. And I just really hope that maybe I get the opportunity to spend next summer with you in person. But it's just been such an amazing week, and you guys are all fantastic.
Awesome.
Beautiful
Amazing.
identity bearers of Christ,
There you go.
sons and daughters, princes and princesses. Keep learning, keep growing, because you're doing an amazing job.
Amen. Awesome, awesome. Thanks, Amy. Well, that was all unscripted, but that's good. We're going to do the final little thing here. So Zeke, if you can put the slides back up, I'm going to run through a few things and final announcements, and then we're going to be dismissed. And hopefully everything works. It doesn't. Well, I have this clicker thing. Okay, there we go. So we still have one more week of this. We're going to get a week off, and we get one more week. So if any of you guys are first-time kids and you want to come back and do Senate, you are welcome to do that. We actually have scholarships that wouldn't cost anything. You could just do it. Or if you were a senator and you want to do get a new set of lips, Lead Elite Week 3, you could do that as well. And so that's just let you know, you can go online and you can register. Emily will be glad to take your names and get you guys plugged in if you want to do that. Also, some of you guys have done the Ambassador League. Some of you haven't. We talked about the Ambassador League Amy did today. I want to encourage you to really think and pray whether that's something that God would want to use in your life to take you to the next level in your leadership, in your community involvement, in your character, in your knowledge of the word, in your relationship building. All of that stuff is so important. And so we have all that information on our website about the Ambassador League. It's a one-year program for the parents listening, and it's designed to get kids out of their comfort zones and out into their communities and study the word and read good books and interview people and write letters to the editor and observe trials and local board meetings and all kinds of things that they never would do on their own. And the cool news is if you complete all the assignments at the end of the year, then you get to come to our banquet, and we actually give you a cash scholarship as part of what we call the John Quincy Adams Award, which is named after John Quincy Adams, who was a president, but then also a congressman and who fought against slavery his whole life. And he was very young when he was first involved as the assistant to the emissary to Russia when he was 14 years old. So you 14-year-olds out there, you know what? John Quincy Adams got nothing on you, right? So it's a great thing to think and pray about. Also at SSI, we have internships. And we've had many of kids over the years come do a week, do a day. Sometimes maybe if a gap year is coming on, you can do an internship with us during the summer program, the camps. You get to go behind the scenes and see what goes on with all the craziness that most of you never get a chance to see. We think of ourselves as a duck on the top of the water, but if you look underneath, it's paddling like crazy. So we need some paddlers to help us put this thing on. And if you're interested in doing that, please let us know. And then always we have advanced tracks. This year we had to combine all of them into Lead Elite. But normally what we have is the Senate track, obviously, that's an advanced track after you do the House. We also have media tracks, both print and broadcast. You get a chance to interview people and conduct yourself as a reporter. You get a chance to put out a newspaper every morning. And by the way, the misquotes in the newspaper are the hit, right? It's always awesome. And then the broadcast team actually puts together newscasts where you cover what's going on in the House and the Senate It's great experience, totally different leadership experience. And then we have the judicial track, which is mock trial. You try a criminal case as a lawyer. And if you want to do that, you'll be the butt of all the lawyer jokes, but you'll have a great time doing it. And then we have the moot court. And there's some of our students in that picture right there with actual sitting Michigan Supreme Court justices. They go into the real chamber and they argue a case in front of real justices. A great experience. We have the campaign track where you get on a small team and you get a candidate and you have to sell that candidate to the rest of the camp. And at the end of the week, you do a debate in the middle, do fundraisers, you go door to door, you do a debate. And then at the end, everybody goes to the polls and comes out with an I voted sticker. And we choose the next governor of the state of Michigan right inside the SSI lead experience. That's amazing. And then we also have the business track, week one usually, where you get put on a team and you manage a $40 million company over 8 years of business and learn all kinds of biblical principles of stewardship and management, teamwork, and economics and finance and all kinds of things that would really benefit you, whether you're going to be a business owner or whether you're just going to be an employee in a business. It's great, great stuff. All of these simulations are designed to bring a different layer of understanding and knowledge into you in the real world, the practical world. So that's awesome. Another announcement, on September the 18th, we're going to have Dr. Alveda King, who is the niece of Dr. Martin Luther King, and she's going to be our banquet speaker. Every year we have an annual banquet. It's going to be in the Detroit area, Southeast Michigan, in Livonia, I think it is. And we're very, very excited about this. So there's going to be tickets, and you can, if your parents are interested or your church, whatever, you can buy a table of people and come and hang out with us, and we can talk about our ministry that we have to SSI, not only in Michigan, but Wisconsin and Minnesota, and also in Iowa as well. So mark your calendars. It'd be great to see some of you there. And we will be presenting the Ambassador League Awards at that thing as well. And a lot of SSI alums come, and we usually have student rates. And sometimes you can get tickets for, if you want to volunteer. That's a great thing to do, actually, is volunteer for the banquet. So let us know if you're interested in that as well. And then we want you to be our friend online. There is an SSI Alumni Page, right? And that's really awesome. A chance to hang out with a lot of other folks over the years who have gone to SSI. We have our main page, Student Statesmanship Institute. And we have an Instagram, I hear. It's not my can of worms, but everybody else seems to like Instagram a whole lot. So
it is the best place for students to hang out and have a good time.
Okay, Joe, it's the best place for students to hang out, Instagram. All right, so that sounds good. And also, we want to say thank you because as you guys have, the students have found out all week long, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that have made this thing work. So I'm going to highlight each one of them now so that I can just say thank you. First of all, Joe Cecil. He's our Chief Operating Officer, and man, oh man, he has done a great work in putting all this together. And then, of course, everybody knows and loves Amy Chauvin, who is our Programs Director. And man, Joe and Amy are a dynamic duo of creativity beyond anything you have ever seen. I so much enjoy working with these folks and being a part of this team. And actually, they do most of it. The joke is I show up and talk, and they do almost everything else. So it's really, really awesome. Then Emily Wilcox, you guys have met her. She was our floor leader. She's our executive administrative assistant, and she handles all the administrative stuff for the office. And then we have Zeke Talmadge, the man behind the curtain. House session will begin. Thank you. There he is. I call him Zeke-erific, and he's the one that put together this whole shebang up here, this studio and all that stuff, and makes all the trains run on time. So thank you, Zeke. This summer we've had Caleb Lambrecht with us, who is a student at Hillsdale College, and he's on staff actually with us, and he's downstairs in our office building right now. Caleb, thank you for a great experience this summer. And then Emma Zeilinga, who is our clerk, she's also here, and she goes to Cedarville, which I got mixed up for week one. But both of those two have been an invaluable part of our office team this summer, putting all this on. And in addition to that, we have all these online people as well. So there's Tisha, that we call them the crew. So there's Tisha, Spencer, Chris, Rebecca, Katja, Cher Lee from Wisconsin, and Luke, who just came in here today. I'm not going to show all those guys, but I just want to say on behalf of our whole team, thank you to everyone. This doesn't happen by magic, and pivoting this thing to an online this year was an amazing, amazing experience. And I was very doubtful that we could pull it off, but this team pulled it off. and all of you guys who volunteered and helped. In addition to that, we had all these lobbyists and committee chairs who helped us on Wednesday, our special worldview speakers, Anthony Weber and Lenny Mayland. And then we have great chapel speakers this week, really focusing us on Christ. So the whole thing's been amazing, and we just want to say thank you to everyone for being a part of it. And as we close, and we're just about right on time, I just want to say a final word to the students, and then we're going to pray. The message this week has been, you know, you are created in the image of God. You have the stamp of the divine approval on you. You have a history, you have a destiny, a calling in your life that's God-given, and that you have so much potential beyond what you could even imagine at this point. And part of the reason why you're here this week, and our prayer is that God would just lead you on a path where would be totally committed and radically committed to Him and His Word, be filled with the Holy Spirit, be an ambassador for Jesus Christ, realize all of the potential that God has put in you for being a leader and for being a follower in some cases, but being most of all a representative of Jesus Christ. And the one thing on this slide, it says that it won't happen by magic. It does not happen by magic, by just sitting there. You've got to be proactive, and you've got to, be engaged with God and engaged with His Word. And part of our goal is that you to be engaged outside of that into your world. And think of yourself as the light of the world, the city set on a hill. We're part of the embassy of the kingdom of heaven on earth. And then we have a job and we have a task. And the most exciting thing in the world is to be about the Father's business, to be about God's will and purpose in your own life and then outward into the world, and to make the world a better place, to leave the world better than you found it. Those are all things that are amazing. And I just pray that this week, some seeds that got planted in all of our hearts, some words that we heard from God, some challenges that we heard, and we'll just take all of that in. And in the end, when we've heard it all and when we've seen everything, we're going to go to God and we're going to say what I challenged you to say at the very beginning of the week, what Jesus prayed in the Garden of Gethsemane. Lord, not my will, but your will be done. Whatever that means, whatever price that will cost me, whatever sacrifice I have to make, Lord, I want to be used by you in my life, in my generation. And Lord, I submit myself to you. And Lord, I just want to go where you want me to go, do what you want me to do, and live that life of consecration to God. So that's the challenge, young people. It might lead you into politics. Hopefully, we need a lot more like you. It might lead you into business. It might lead you into media. It might lead you into, a business. But whatever God's path for you is, whether in the limelight or serving, in the corner somewhere, we know that God has made you special. And like Linda Lee Tarver said, you are beautiful, right? You are beautifully, wonderfully created and made in God's image. And it has been a privilege all week for us to be able to interact with you. And we're just praying that God will use this time as a seed that will further His purposes in your life. So let's close with a word of prayer, and then we'll be dismissed. Father, thank you for every one of the students on this call. Thank you for all their families, their parents, their friends or others that surround them. Thank you for the ADCs and the way that they have volunteered and stepped up this week. Thank you for our staff, Lord, everyone who contributes. I want to thank you personally, God, for all the donors who gave all the money that make this possible. It's impossible to do without those resources. And God, you have provided everything that we need. And now we're praying that the seeds that you planted in our hearts and in our minds this week, Lord, will grow. They will be in good soil, and they will grow and bear fruit 30-fold, 60-fold, 100-fold. And that every one of these young people, God, would just come to grips with that call of God on their life, that mark that you have placed upon them, God. Thank you that you know their names, Lord, that you created them. And I pray now, Lord, that this week will have been a launching pad into what your purpose and your destiny and your calling is in their lives, Lord. And I pray you'll bless them. I pray you'll lead them into the universities and the educational settings that you want to lead them to. God, lead them into their jobs and their careers, Lord. Lead them into families, Lord, and just, churches and places where they can be fruitful for you through the kingdom of God, Lord. And I just thank you so much. We commit our way to you, Lord, and we all just say at the end, God, we pray like Jesus prayed, Lord, not my will, but your will be done. And we pray in his name. And everyone said, Amen. God bless you guys. What am I supposed to say now, Amy?
Hangar is open.
Oh, the hangar is going to be open for a little while longer if you guys want to hang out and tell jokes and all that kind of stuff. Say goodbye to each other. And don't forget, if you haven't completed your evaluations, I know the elite guys, we want to make sure you guys do that. Go online, click in your Moodle at the top there. It'll give you the evaluation form. Please, please, please fill those out. Even if you've got things that you think we could do better, that we could improve on for the online version or even for the real thing, let us know. And if you have an encouragement for us, or if you want to speak to individuals that spoke into your life, that's great as well. We're here for you guys. We love you guys. Thanks to all the parents who are watching and the families. It's been great to hang out with your kids this week. God bless you guys. We are over.
Bye. Thank you.
Wave.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yep. Bless you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. See ya. Woohoo.
See ya.
It's amazing how you guys appear and magically disappear.
Thank you. It's not the same not singing I Have a Destiny.
Yeah, I know.